A really nice introduction. Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Dr. Tim. I'm delighted to be here today. And what I'd like to do today is try and do as much good as I can. This is a very interesting time in history, and I do have information that can help you enormously. So what I'd like to do is just present some information. Let's make it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, then just hit the chat and we can go from there. Okay. I'm a chiropractor and I am the owner and founder of Total Health Chiropractic. And I do a lot of public speaking. I've been in most of the corporations in Singapore over the last few years. Now we have 10 doctors and 5 clinics. And our clinics actually see 1,200 clients every single week. So I guess we must be doing something good. So today I'd like to talk about ergonomics, and very much I'm focusing on self-preservation. We are living in a world now where most of us are working from home. Before we go into the ergonomics, I want to talk about just a little bit about the big picture and this new reality that people are talking about. We are working from home, so there are concerns. People are isolated, people have workstations at home that might not be ergonomically suited to your bodies, they're not efficient. So we're going to go on to some simple solutions, and we're going to make sure that you know what exercises you can do as well. So COVID-19, let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously it's a virus. A virus is a little bit of DNA. In this case, it's RNA that inserts itself in your genetic information in your cells. We're hoping for a vaccination, but that might take a long time. You'll notice that we don't have vaccinations for colds and flus. The ones for flu works to an extent. But because the virus is mutating all the time, then we'd always worry about the next year's virus. Is the vaccination actually going to work? When we look at SARS and MERS and previous coronaviruses that came into the world, they were definitely around for a couple of years. There's a lot of talk now about this coming out of lockdown. And there are various steps that we must go through, but it's highly likely that one protracted lockdown may not work. It may not be sufficient, and we may need to squeeze things in again. So in all likelihood, many of us will be working from home for some time yet. So in fact, this could well be the new reality for a long time. There are viral reservoirs around the world, definitely in India and Africa, that's going to make sure this virus can keep reappearing. So what I always talk about is mindset. If we can get our mindset in the right place, it puts us in a state of advantage rather than disadvantage. Okay, so before we go any further, what I'd like to do is get the very, very basic covered right at the beginning. So number one, I want to introduce you to your new default position. This is your reset. I know you're going to be sitting for many hours at your computer, but I want you to know 2 positions. One is your default, and then the other one, we're going to help you set up a comfortable working position. So the default, this is the position you keep coming back to, is like this. You see in the picture there is somebody on the left who's slouched. This person will be stiff and will be starting to get achy and painful. And the person on the right-hand side, good posture, is more efficient. So I want to introduce you to your new efficient position. So number one, I want you to sit up. And when I did that, I lifted my sternum. So concentrate on your breastbone. It's right here. Okay, lift that sternum a couple of inches. And you'll notice it's tipped your head back onto your shoulders. And it's also put a slight curve in your low back. So this is already good. Your head is back on your shoulders and you have a slight curve in your low back, which you should have. So now go ahead and open your shoulders and relax them a little bit. Yeah, great. And now if you engage your abs, keep your head back on your shoulders, you are now in your reset, your default position. This is the position that I want you to keep going back to at least a couple of times every hour. All right, think of it as resetting your body so that the aches and pains don't build up. Okay, and I've written on the bottom there, and move, because when you'll actually notice that when I'm talking, I tend to move around a lot. It's because I've trained my body. Sitting still to me just means pain and stiffness and suffering. So I tend to move around a lot. Always remember, we are designed to move. Okay, so let's go on to ergonomics. Ergonomics is the human factor in design. Maybe we can call it the science of fitting the workplace to the worker, but remember, we also want to fit ourselves to whatever workplace that we have. Okay, this is a good self-preservation strategy. Okay, why do we want to preserve our health? Well, it is your greatest wealth. And people during this lockdown are starting to realize that perhaps we should be a little bit more mindful of our health. You know, what do we want from our health? We want a long life, of course we do, and we want to avoid disease and degeneration. All right, this is really important for us going forward. Obviously, we want to be energetic and vital. We want to be happy. There's a very strong correlation to happiness and health. It's the number. This is the big partnership that you want to think about. We know that healthy people are actually happier than wealthy people. Okay, so this important thing is that health is even more important than your wealth. It's the number one wealth. And of course, you want to be comfortable in your own body. We've created a very unnatural world that creates changes in our body that can make us very uncomfortable. Okay, we want to live as much as we can pain-free for as long as possible. Now, I've been in most of the towers of power around Singapore, most of the corporations, and I get the same story everywhere I go. I call them body signals. These are the signs and symptoms that we tend to have. This is the top 10, and maybe you are representative of this top 10. We'll see. But wherever I go, people tell me they have aches and pains, and stiffness, maybe some swelling, numbness and tingling. Headaches and migraines are getting more and more common, and weakness and fatigue. This is the top 10. Why don't you go ahead and tell me in the chat, what is yours? You know, what is your problem area? I'm assuming that you're all computer-based operatives, workers. So that would tell me that in all likelihood you have neck pain, maybe some shoulder stiffness, perhaps low back pain, maybe getting headaches more often than you used to. I don't know. But why don't you go ahead and tell me on the chat, and then we can cover these areas a little more specifically for you. All right. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. First of all, I've mentioned mindset twice now. Mindset is the most important thing. It sets your state. All right, if you have a good mindset, it drives good actions, and then that drives the results that you're going to get in life. All right, so always think about mindset. I mentioned your default position, so be aware of that. But we've also tend to have default actions. You know, for example, what do you do when you feel some pain or stiffness? What do you do normally? Do you go for a massage, or do you reach for the pill bottle, or do you go for, you know, to get some rub and you rub it into the shoulder? You know, these things are very important. So what I'd like to do is start thinking a little bit more like a chiropractor. You don't have to become a chiropractor. This is not really a full chiropractic presentation. This is more on ergonomics. But if we can start to think a bit more like a chiropractor, that will help you in your decision making in life enormously. So alignment is extremely important. You know, we have to be aligned to life. If we're not aligned to life, then we are aligned to something else. You know, it could be disease and degeneration. What we do repetitively matters enormously. What you do all day, every day, becomes you. Okay? I've mentioned before that we are designed to move, and yes, we do live in this very, very unnatural world. And we really must do as much as we can to make our life more natural. Okay? So let's just agree this. Most of us tend to entrust our health to the medical profession, and I get that. This is where we take our loved ones when they're sick. All right? medicine and sick care, you don't tend to go to the medical doctor until you have some kind of condition. All right. Now, to me, this is the wrong way around. And very, very early on in my career, I changed, and rather than becoming a medical doctor, I decided I wanted to become a chiropractor because I wanted to specialize more on keeping people healthy. And chiropractic is very much about life. We studied life and what makes us live. And I think this is true healthcare. And in our paradigm, we concentrate on putting as much life into our bodies, and that means there's literally no room for disease, right? With COVID, we have the virus and we have the host. The host is us. So start to think of yourself as an environment where that virus will either flourish and grow and you get the disease, or a very inhospitable environment for that virus because you are so healthy, your immune system is working well. So let's talk a bit about posture because it is so important. You'll see in the middle there's a lady, and I think I picked her as a picture as an example because I just think she looks so comfortable in her own body. And let me explain why. On the left, you see a cartoon character or an illustration with a line straight down the middle. Now, this line down the middle we call the gravity line. And if you live your life in good posture close to that gravity line, you will find that you have a much more comfortable life. The aches and pains won't build up, right? The tension will not build up in your body, all right? Now, I'm going to talk a lot about structure and function, and it's really important. Now, on the right side, you can see there's a very tall chimney there. It's a great big column. It's about 200 or 300 feet tall. Now, why is that there? Well, I actually built it. In my previous career, I was in engineering, and I was responsible for building very tall columns. And I got really good at it. And those columns that I built, I believe, are still standing. This one's in Africa. All right. Now, I'd like to remind you that you are all columns. We need to realize this. We are vertical columns, and we want to stand in gravity for 100 years. Well, I hope you want to stand in gravity for 100 years. All right. Now, to do that, you've got to stand tall. You've got to stand proud, and you've got to have good alignment. If I built those chimneys leaning to one side in poor posture, they would probably have fallen down by now, okay? So, what about poor posture? Because I see it everywhere. I go, it concerns me enormously. I wrote a book on it. It's called Posture Matters. So let's think about poor posture. What is it? If you have poor posture, you have poor structure. And as an engineer, if you have poor structure, you have poor function. It's a no-brainer, really, right? Joints that are out of alignment will tend to wear out. It's just a fact. The habitual positioning that you put yourself in all day, every day, is causing the stress and strain that you feel on your body. That's the aches and pain. What is this stress and strain? Well, it's the gravitational force that's actually building up in the body. Maybe it's the shoulders or the low back, stiff neck. It's gravity that's causing that, because gravity will either make you strong, give you strong bones and strong muscles, or it will slowly destroy you. And most of the arthritis that we tend to get in life is due to structural joints that are out of alignment. All right? It's true. Your alignment will cause you most of your future physical pain. I want to help you live without pain. All right? Now, very importantly, we all want to age well, but we know this for sure. And you know it if you think about it deeply. People that develop bad posture tend to age badly. I don't think you've ever seen anybody with really bad posture looking particularly healthy, because bad posture, bad alignment brings on premature aging, something that none of us want, right? I think sometimes we need a reality check. If we think about the process of life is about growing. And then once we get skeletal maturity, we are fully grown, we're then still going to be around for another 50, 60, 70 years, right? Let's hope. But during that time, we continue to change. Our body's a construction site, breaking down, rebuilding, and we are adapting. And that adaptation is either strong and healthy and good, and we grow into old age gracefully, or that adaptation is growing into an inefficient body that ages very badly. right? This is really, really important. Posture, it's all about cause and effect, action and reaction. And unfortunately, if you're that young chap on the left in the cartoon, the one that's already showing, looks like he's got a bad back, then if you do that, for more than 5 hours a day for the next 20, 30 years, then I am afraid it will hasten aging. So this is your chance to engage with us, to start to think a little bit more, be mindful, okay? Let's think a little bit about our body. Obviously, we want our body to work well. It is quite complicated, but I want to try and keep things simple. There are laws of the universe. We have to live within these laws of the universe, right? We've got to get the basic physiology right, or things start to go wrong. So the basic systems we have is the nervous system, the breathing, the pulmonary system, and obviously your circulation. And then we have the digestive systems. You see here the brain has to communicate via the spinal cord straight down the spine. And the spine is the structure that supports and protects the nervous system. And you can see little blue lines in that spine, which are discs. And the discs keep the vertebrae apart, and they maintain little holes for those vital nerves to come out. I think it's quite easy to imagine if those backbones, those vertebrae that are stacked on top of each other, if they start to get out of alignment, that they could start to pinch and interfere with nerves, right? And this is true. We really must have an efficient system and an efficient shape, okay? All those viscera, those organs that you can see in the body, they need to have space. And they need to have space so that we can breathe to full capacity. And we have uninterrupted flow of blood and lymph and things like that. And it's true. Any postural distortions, so these are misalignments of the spine, if you like, will always affect the transmission of blood, oxygen, and nerves. And this is the basis of life. These are things that are non-negotiable. We have to get right, or there has to be an effect later on, okay? Please start to think of your spinal column as a vital organ and start treating it like something that needs to be looked after in this crazy world. Let's have a look at this lady here. This lady looks a bit stooped. She's obviously been sitting, working hard for many years. What's happening here? Well, I'm going to demonstrate something. In the old days, there was something called the smoking disease. There was too many smokers in the world, and it caused terrible, terrible health problems. But we now know that this disease of sitting, deconditioning of our bodies due to sitting all day, is now actually having bigger effects on the financial world than smoking used to, right? It is that important. So spinal deconditioning is a thing, okay? You've got to start to be aware of it and start to make sure it doesn't happen. So what's happening to this lady here? I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. Obviously, she's going to be tight and uncomfortable because she has bad posture. Her head's come forward, so it's increased in weight. So there's tension and tightness down her spine. Her organs, her heart, her colon, pancreas, they're all being compressed in that thoracic and abdominal cavity. Now, this will lead to a loss of ease in the system. The system becomes stressed and compressed, and that leads to disease. We have decreased blood flow, and we have, it's harder to breathe, obviously, and we have decreased lymph. Lymph is how the body detoxifies itself. It gets all the bad stuff out. We have to have a good flow of lymph, bringing all the toxins out, okay? We can call this postural stress disorder, and it is a real thing. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. Now, please do it. Don't just sit there comfortably. I want you to put yourself in that default position I mentioned before. Go ahead, put yourself into great posture. I'll remind you, lift your sternum, your breastbone, lift it up 2 or 3 inches, right? Put your head back on your shoulders. Now you'll notice that's opened your chest. You can actually breathe deeper. All right, now, good. In that position with your head back and your shoulders open, go ahead and take a deep breath. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah, that feels good, doesn't it? Now let that go. Now, imagine you've been sat at your desk for 4 or 5 hours. You're feeling tired. Put yourself into that position. Go ahead, do it for me. drop that sternum, relax your body, and you've gone into this posture that might be comfortable, but let me demonstrate what's happening. Exaggerate that position, because you're probably going to do it for another 30 years if you're not careful. Now, in that bad postural position, go ahead and take a deep breath. Ooh, now I'm doing it myself. Now, if you followed me there, if you put yourself in great posture and took a breath, and then bad posture and took a breath, you will, if you did that properly, you will notice that your breathing, your vital capacity was reduced by up to 60%. 60. Now, this is really important because obviously I've demonstrated that bad posture creates less oxygen. Less oxygen does cause acidity in our body, and when you have got acidosis, it's called, of your body, now you have got the breeding ground, the environment that nurtures serious diseases like cancer, right? We have got to have a well-oxygenated body. The only way to do that is by eating well and having good oxygenation, okay? Really, really, really important. So why do I get so excited? So excited that I even wrote a book on this subject. Well, I snapped a shot in the MRT once. It frightens me when I see it, the younger generation coming through. You know, if there's any parents amongst you, please help me correct this generation that are coming through, because you know what you do all day, every day becomes you, and if they lose their posture, then they will never reach their potential in life. I'm afraid that is the reality, right? It's something, life is something to be nurtured, life is something to be celebrated, and we do want to get the best out of life. This is what chiropractic is all about. So I'm going to introduce you to a little bit more physiology, because it amazes me how many people don't know this. This is one of these things that, again, we should be taught at school. Many of you that are watching will already have some shoulder pain, I would guess, neck pain. I've seen that in the chat. So let's understand what that means. If you have some tightness, then you have got muscle contraction, right? You've got constant muscle contraction. That's doing a number of things. One thing it's doing, it's just robbing you of your energy. You're wasting energy all day, every day. Maybe that's where the fatigue comes from. But you will also have something called upper cross syndrome. Now, what that means is, if you've got, well, I'll demonstrate with my arm. So if I make a bicep, right, my enormous bicep here, right, what I've done is I've contracted my bicep to move my arm. Now, I would not have been able to do that unless my tricep released, okay? I move my arm with my bicep, the tricep releases to allow the movement. Now, this is a reflex action that will happen in every single muscle in your body. If you open your mouth with one set of muscles, there are another set of muscles that will release to allow you to do that. If you have tight shoulders all the time, you can guarantee that you will have some weakness at the front. If you've got a tight low back all the time, then that explains, that's why it's really hard to get abs like Madonna. You know what I mean, right? It's hard to get good abs. It's easy to get a tight low back. This is called upper cross syndrome or lower cross syndrome, depending on where you're feeling these effects, right? Lots of people blow their shoulders out because their shoulders are out of balance, tightness at the back, weakness at the front. And we really need to get back into a position, a posture of efficiency, and then we can start to age well, and things can be good. So what can we do about this? Well, I want you to start to think like a chiropractor, as I mentioned before, right? I want us to start to go on the attack in life rather than being reactive. Let's be proactive, okay? Let's tell our body we want it to be healthy. Let's work in the world of prevention rather than waiting for things to go wrong and then looking for a cure, okay? Prevention, no doubt about it, is better than a cure. So how do we do that? Well, in this world, you can see in the cartoon that this young lady has already, she started to think like a chiropractor, and she's lifted her laptop up. And she's put a cushion in her low back and she's sitting up. She looks way more comfortable than the girl on the left. I think you'll agree. And I think you can see that she's already suffering, the girl on the left, because she's leaning forward. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. So How do we prevent injury and pain? Well, we look after our body. We look after ourselves. Maybe we change some of our behaviors. Okay, we need to start taking breaks. Micro breaks, if you like. They don't have to be very long, only 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but a couple of times an hour. Ideally, you'll stand up, you'll go and you'll move away, you'll get a glass of water, you'll come back, maybe you'll reset, you'll go back to that default position that I showed you before, okay? Every hour we need to stretch, and we're going to go through a few stretches in a moment. Improving our posture and alignment is vital. Remember, we either have a posture, a shape that is efficient, or we have one that's highly inefficient in gravity, and then those physical forces start to cause problems. We also want to be fit. You know, if you're carrying too much weight, you're not moving very well, then you know it's hard to look after our posture, because already we're tired, we're fatigued. So we want to look after our fitness. And we want to think about the 20-20-20 rule, because I know that we're all sat at our computer, focused on something that's probably only a couple of feet away from our face. That's going to cause problems with eyes, and I know that many people are already suffering from eye strain. Let's not make it worse. So the 20-20-20 rule, I want you to just somehow create some kind of reminder. Every 20 minutes, you look away, okay? You want to look at something that's more than 20 feet away. Right now, I'm looking across the road at the house across the street, if you're in a room, but look at the far side of the room, but long enough for your eyes to accommodate, to refocus, and do that for 20 seconds. Okay, so every 20 minutes, look away for 20 seconds. Okay, again, we're talking about mindset, which is all about creating healthy habits that will go a long way to giving you a healthy life. All right, everything you do creates habits, so let's start thinking more about creating some healthy habits. And then obviously we always live in an environment. Let's make it as healthy as possible. Let's make it easy for us to look after ourselves. So perhaps we get some ergonomic furniture, or maybe we adapt what we have to fit ourselves, okay? We adjust it to the person, and we're going to go through that right now. So, if you are blessed with a really nice workstation and you've got a proper desk and a nice chair at your workstation, then that's no good at all if you don't know how to set it up. So let's make sure we know how to set our basic workstation up. So there's 4 items of furniture that you want to get right: chair, desk, monitor, keyboard, and mouse. So the chair, let's talk about that. It should be the right height, so hopefully it's adjustable. You want to set it so that your knees are at 90 degrees and your elbows can be at 90 degrees. And that should set the top of your elbow should be just off the top of the desk, okay? So the top surface of the desk should be just below the elbow, like you can see here. Talking about the chair, in this particular case, we've got armrests. Do use those armrests, bring them up so they are taking the weight of the shoulders, okay? I'm going to show you what to do in a moment if you don't have an armrest. But the weight of your arms is substantial. If they're hanging off your shoulders all day, every day, it's going to lead to problems. Okay? The monitor, you want it straight in front of you so you're not twisting your neck, and you want it so that the top of the screen is at eye level or just below. Okay? Very important. The keyboard and mouse want to be in a position that's comfortable so that your wrists are hopefully supported. And they shouldn't be bent up or down, because that's going to lead to stress in the wrists, and that leads up to a whole new set of problems. So this is how you set up your equipment. But now I want to talk about what we're trying to achieve. We want our head to be upright and above our shoulders. Okay, and eyes looking ahead. Our shoulders, we want them to be able to relax and down. So we do need that support of the arms. Our back should be supported by the backrest. You'll notice that all good chairs should have a lumbar support down here. If you don't, then perhaps introduce a lumbar support or a cushion. But if you've got a nice chair, then work out how to set it up properly. It amazes me how so many people have lovely expensive chairs provided by their companies, and then they don't use them properly. Okay, it's such a shame. Our wrists, I mentioned, should be neutral. Our elbows and knees 90 degrees, as I mentioned. Our thighs should be horizontal-ish, and our feet, they shouldn't be dangling. Not at all, because then the weight of the leg is causing pressure on the back of the thighs, and that causes problems as well. Okay, so if anybody has any problems on that, then let's put it in the chat. I'd love you all to leave today's workshop knowing how to set up either on a proper ergonomic station like you have now, or perhaps on the laptop, which we'll move on to. So I'm just going to talk for a moment about the laptop, and then I'm going to unshare my screen because I want you to see my camera, because I'm actually going to set myself up and describe what I'm doing on my dining room table right behind me. So the problem with laptops is that the monitor is attached to the keyboard. It's just not adjustable enough to suit the person. It's a small compact keyboard. It's very difficult to get an ideal setup for any of us. So solutions people are always looking for. Some people like to have a docking station. I myself have a laptop stand. Here's my stand that goes everywhere I go. It goes in my laptop bag, and I travel with my laptop stand, my laptop, my Bluetooth mouse, and keyboard. And I have been known to use a separate monitor, but that's something that you can choose to or ignore. So I'm just going to go and unshare myself for a moment. Stop share. I'll come back on in a while. So now hopefully you can see me. So I'm actually going to set myself up on my dining room table behind me. So hopefully you can hear me. So I've got my laptop, I've got my Bluetooth keyboard, and I've got my Bluetooth mouse. So this is how I'm going to set myself up. If anybody doesn't get this or can't hear me, put it in the chat. I want to address this properly because I know this applies to everybody. So here we have a laptop. Okay, I'm going to open it. I'm going to set myself up on my stand. So what I've done is I've brought it up to the height of my eye. I'm feeling a bit low here, so I'm going to bring myself up. There's nothing too technical. You can use anything. I've got a towel here. I'm just going to bring myself up to the right height. Okay, that feels better. My legs are at 90 degrees. My arms are going to be about 90 degrees. This feels good. I'm bringing myself in because I don't have an armrest. So I'm actually going to use the table as my armrest. So I'm going to push my screen away a little bit, and I'm going to put my keyboard where it's efficient, it's comfortable, and my arms are supported, so my shoulders can relax. Now, is this ideal? No, because my low back is not supported. So whatever you choose, it could be a cushion, a lumbar support. I've got a rolled up towel. It's going right in my low back. And now I am ready to rock. I feel good. It's comfortable. My low back is supported. I've got that curve. I can keep my head on my shoulders. There's no tension going to build up. This is a really good setup. Okay. So hopefully you've got that. Any questions? Then do. Let's talk about it at the end, because I think it's really important that we're all able to set ourselves up. Because I know most of us end up working in Starbucks or at the kitchen table or wherever. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, so that's the laptop. Any problems then, as I said, just pop it in the chat and we'll go from there. Okay, so hopefully we've got a little bit more idea on the ergonomics. What I'd like to do now is just go through some simple things that I think that we should all do almost every day. Many of you will have your head stuck forward like this. We want to try and avoid that with our posture, but inevitably you're going to get some tension in the neck. So this is something that I think that you should everybody should do. Our head sits on our shoulders on a neck that should have a curve. We tend to lose that curve by sitting at a computer all day. So please have in your strategies for health a way of getting that curve back. So here, quite simply, the skeleton on the left has got a rolled up towel, as the lady at the bottom. The lady on the right has got a neck roll, whatever works for you. Okay, I myself tend to have, when I do it, I tend to just roll up a towel. If I'm at home, if I'm at work, then I've got neck rolls. But something that you want to do, spend a bit of time in this position. It's comfortable. It's very, very comfortable. It's not. You can even sleep in this position. It is very, very comfortable. After a long day working with your head forward, spend some time there, and then you can actually roll your head from side to side, and that will actually massage the back of your neck at the same time. Really good thing. All right, this is a healthy habit. Right, number 2. We all end up with stress in the upper back. That's me in the blue shirt on the left. What I'm doing, I'm demonstrating the use of a roller. Do use a roller to roll away that stress. When you sit with a slouched back, just don't do it, or else you end up with a hunchback, but don't do it. To avoid the stresses building up, then use a roller. If you spend all day in flexion, please remember flexion is for old ladies and old men. We don't want that to happen. So spend some time in extension. Use a roller. When I spend some time, I probably do this for 10 minutes, probably 3 times a week. And every time I do it, I feel benefit. I'm breathing better, my chest is open, it's expanded my thorax, it's stretched all my organs apart. I know that things are better. If you do it and it hurts a little bit on the spine, then keep doing it. Maybe stop when it hurts, but keep doing it, and I promise you it'll get easier. And when something gets easier, you know that something is changing for the better. Okay, this is number 2 you should do. I think we all end up with some stiff necks at times, so I want us to prevent loss of range of motion. Loss of range of motion is stiffening. Stiffening hastens aging, so we just don't want to go there. So as we go through life, we want to maintain our range of motion, which means we need to stretch ourselves slightly into discomfort. Otherwise, if we're always inside our comfort zone, we're getting stiffer and stiffer. Okay. There are 6 ranges of motion for these joints. So it's quite simple: forward, back, side, side, and 2 rotations. We want to try and maintain as much motion as we had when we were children. That's your goal. If you can do that long term, as you age, you're doing yourself some real good. Okay. We all end up with tight shoulders. This is something that you can do right at your desk. So do open it. When I mentioned lift the sternum, as you lift your sternum, why don't stretch your spine and bring it back there? And then while you're there, why not do some stretching just to get some movement in? Okay, we've just perhaps roll your shoulders forward and back, bring the blood back. Remember, the blood delivers the oxygen and the nutrition to the tissues. If we're sitting all day, not moving, we are deconditioning. So movement is good, okay? Now, strengthen the neck. This is something that most people have never heard of, but something we really must do. We've got to avoid forward head posture. Makes you look old, makes you feel old. Don't let it happen. So that lady on the right there is not strangling herself like it looks like. She has a resistance band. Quite simply, she has it behind her neck, and she's creating force. And she's using her neck muscles to pull against the resistance band. On the right, the lady's using a towel. Again, you can use a towel, whatever it takes, really. We have to adapt. A simple towel, and I'm pulling into my neck, and I'm using my neck muscles to resist. Okay? I personally do this quite a lot when I'm driving my car. I simply press my head into the headrest, and I do this probably 20 seconds, and I do it a couple of times a day. But I do not want to get forward head posture because I know what results. Okay, simple thing. An exercise ball. Now, this is something that I believe everybody who works at a desk should have an exercise ball. Why? Because it's simple. You cannot sit on an exercise ball in bad posture. You fall off. If you sit on a ball, it's fun. It makes you bounce and move. When my kids, I have twins, when they were growing up, I provided them with little exercise balls so that when they were sitting at their workstation or they were doing their homework or whatever, they were sat on a ball. And they were always moving their spines. It's a great thing. And if you've been sitting all day, rather than hitting the sofa when you get home to do some more deconditioning, why don't you just pull the ball out, sit on the ball, watch the telly for 20 minutes, and you'll find that you'll bounce and you'll move. And what you will do is you will recondition your spine. You'll bring back the movement, you'll energize it, you'll get the oxygen. And I've written on the bottom there, don't forget your discs. Your discs are something that you have to nurture. Have to. Your discs don't have a blood supply. I'll repeat that. Your discs don't have a blood supply. They only get their life from movement. Movement creates a pumping action which delivers the oxygen and the blood to the discs. If you're not moving, the discs are dying. Simple as that. Okay? Fundamental stuff. Now, this is something that I tend to do at my desk. This chap's doing it on the floor. But again, what this is doing, this is addressing the low back and the upper back all at the same time, the shoulders. So I do this literally by holding onto my desk. Turn that down. Literally by holding onto my desk, I push myself away on my chair. Can you see me? And what I've done is I've just opened the low back and it stretched my shoulders open. Again, you can see how this chap's doing it on the floor. This is about the entire spine, getting length in the spine and bringing the shoulders back. Too many people end up with these forward shoulders. We want to get those shoulders back on your shoulder. When they start to move back in your shoulders, then you will feel so much better. You'll be breathing better. And then finally, staying with the low back. Your low back does take a real hammer. You've got all your weight is on that bottom disc. Your bottom disc between your movable spine and your immovable pelvis takes all the hammer. I mentioned that the poor disc doesn't have a blood supply even, so it really is a weakness and we have to look after it. So plenty of movement during the day, and then this simple thing here when you get home, and probably once during the day as well, lying on your back, just pull your knees up to your chest. You could even do some rolling on your back, and then you can see the feet are on the ground and your knees up. You can literally windscreen wiper your knees from side to side like that, lying on a carpet or a yoga mat, and that'll get great movement into that disc. It'll feel good. That's something for the low back that, again, these don't do themselves, okay? Mindset, create healthy habits. Most of us are going to be around for an awful long time yet, and we don't want to suffer. So your spine is something that you want to be mindful of. Some golden rules for stretching. Don't evoke pain, but we want to evoke a little bit of discomfort. Okay, I mentioned this before. Stretch into discomfort, but without pain. All right. If it's painful, then back off. Go into slight discomfort. Remember, we're trying to achieve something. So they say no pain, no gain. That's not true. Just a little bit of discomfort. We are expanding our comfortable range of motion. That's what we're doing. Don't bounce your stretches. Just don't do that. I see people on the golf course going bang, bang, bang. It sends shudders down my spine because it's a disaster waiting to happen. Don't bounce. Make it progressive. Stretch for 5 seconds, let your body accept it, and then go into the big stretch. Okay? You should probably be stretching at about 95% of your capacity. You definitely want to be feeling it. You definitely want to be feeling that stretch. Okay? Start to get used to your body. Start to read your body. Have conversations with it. What's my body telling me today? Is it happy or is it stiff? Do I need to do something to help it along its way? Now there are some caveats. There are some warnings. There are times when you really don't want to be diagnosing or trying to look after things yourself. If you start getting tingling or numbness, this is a nerve thing. You don't want to mess around there. So if you're having tingling or numbness, or there's real pain, it's radiating pain, this is nerves. If there's pain that never goes away, right? Pain comes and goes. We all have some pain, but if it never goes away in a joint, then you can guarantee that joint is it's degenerating in some way. So that needs some attention. Any loss of strength or coordination, so loss of grip strength in your hands or anything like that, or you're feeling a bit wobbly, then again, this is nerves. Daily headaches, we all get occasional headaches. I tend not to, but if you're getting daily headaches, again, there's a nerve capacity here, then take these a little bit more seriously. And if you're aware of any structural changes, so maybe a muscle's getting bigger on one side of your body, or maybe you're growing a stress lump on the back of your neck there, or you're aware of something that's changing, then see a professional really as soon as possible, because these things could be corrected quite easily, but they are signs that something is going wrong, and probably won't correct by itself. Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is thank you very much for listening to my presentation.